Hello and welcome to About Anglia from ITV News Anglia. This is our online delve into all things, well, about Anglia. It's all about life here in the Eastern Counties, what it's like living here, working here, news, business, health, politics, science, the environment and the countryside. Plus sport. We'll be covering many and varied issues over the coming months. And so with the new Football League season starting this week, we thought we'd dedicate our first edition of About Anglia with our look ahead to the 2019-20 campaign. And joining me are my sport-minded colleagues from the Anglia TV newsroom, Rob Halden-Pratt, Andy Ward and Raveena Ghattaura. Rav, I understand you'll be looking ahead to what's coming up this coming season.
Yes, Donovan, from video assistant referee to a football chant that Norwich City fans probably won't be able to get out of their heads this season, I'll be looking at what's new ahead of the next campaign.
We'll also be getting opinions from yourselves as well and from fans later on as well and personnel from our clubs, including Luton Town, who have the honour of hosting the first EFL game of the season, Friday the 2nd of August against Middlesbrough. The Hatters being one of the big success stories in the past year. Here are Andy Ward's reflections on a season dominated by 3 promotions, 2 near misses and a high-profile relegation.
As seasons go, last season was a cracker. We had promotion parties, relegation heartache and even coronations.
I am now the Mayor of Norwich.
And now it's about to start all over again. The newly crowned Mayor of Norwich will be doing his thing in the Premier League next season after the Canaries defied the odds to win the Championship. Farkball took the division by storm, as did a certain Timu Pukki, who banged in 29 goals to scoop every award going. Not bad for a free transfer. And there was even some Argentinian brilliance for good measure. The displays of Emi Buendia, more often than not, worth the admission fees alone. While champagne corks were popping at Norwich, things weren't so rosy down the A140. Paul Hurst was brought in to front up Ipswich's new era, but by October he was handed his P45. Former Norwich manager Paul Lambert was the man they turned to replace him, but not even he could save them, as Town were relegated to the 3rd tier for the first time since 1957. Going in the opposite direction is Luton, after they recorded a 2nd promotion on the bounce. The Hatters were sensational in League One, winning the division. A big part of that was down to the goals of James Collins, who hit 25 in total, and the Hatters could even afford to lose manager Nathan Jones to Stoke midway through the season. It was a good job club legend Mick Harford was on hand to steer them home for the final push. It all means the local council are probably getting used to organising these open-top bus parades. Anyone fancy one next year? Peterborough were hoping to join Luton in the Championship, but their promotion charge ran out of steam. After Steve Evans was given his marching orders, Darren Ferguson signed up for a 3rd spell in charge, much to the delight of posh fans. Who'd bet against him making more memories next season? If you wanted memories to last a lifetime, Southend was the place to be on the final day of the season. For much of the game against Sunderland, the Shrimpers were down, but luckily the man in the mask came to their rescue. Stephen Humphreys, who'd broken his cheekbone, scoring the most important goal of his career to keep Southend up. There was last day drama at MK Dons too, who bounced back at the first time of asking after winning what was effectively a promotion playoff against 4th place Mansfield at Stadium MK. Those emotions in stark contrast to how Colchester and Stevenage must have been feeling after they just missed out on the top 7 by a solitary point. Keith Curle led Northampton to safety, while former Cobblers boss Colin Calderwood did the same at Cambridge. The U's surviving by the skin of their teeth, with Notts County and Yeovil suffering the dreaded drop to the conference. Quite the season then, and let's hope there's plenty more where that came from over the next 10 months.
Well, it's only natural we start with Norwich, who will kick off the Premier League a week tomorrow at Liverpool. Fair to say there were no favours for City from the fixture computer, Rob. We'll start with yourself. A tough opening for them, apart from Liverpool.
It's their free hits, though. I mean, they're just absolutely free hits. No one's expecting Norwich to do anything at Liverpool or any of those, top 6 clubs. They're expected to finish in the top 6. So it's absolutely a free hit, absolutely nothing to lose. I think they are in a pretty good place. going into those games. Pre-season's been a bit up and down, but I think the players seem to be gelling well. I think you look at, Patrick Roberts scored at the weekend against Luton, which we might see a bit later on, but scored a great goal. Drummich looked like he's on song. More on that later. I think they're in a really good place. You've got to, it's an old kind of cliche, isn't it? That you have to play them twice anyway. It doesn't really matter when you start finish, because the battle to stay up won't be against Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, or any of those.
But it will be against Newcastle a week later, and I think that's what's interesting about that start. So you got, as you said, Liverpool's a free hit. I don't think anyone's expecting Norwich to get anything there. That's all about just putting in a good performance and showing the Premier League what Norwich are all about.
Don't get stuffed. I think that'll be
absolutely. As you said, the fixtures are tough, and Newcastle is a game that they're a team who are likely to be down there. So immediately there's kind of pressure on to try and get some points on the board.
But they've spent £40 million on a strike.
And that's,
we were all thinking when we looked at this, and Rav will have some opinions on this as well, but we were all thinking, Newcastle will be down there, and then they go and splash the cash like it's going out of fashion.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Do you think because they've done so well last season, fans are going to be expecting them to stay up? Because all this pressure on them is to try and do well in the Premier League. Too much pressure?
No, I think fans will be hoping Norwich stay up. Of course they will. But I think there's a realism amongst Norwich fans.
Yeah, I think it was so unexpected last season.
Absolutely.
They were ahead of the curve. Really.
Exactly. And when we look at the signings in a minute, Norwich haven't spent much money, and I think what they're trying to do is just stick to the philosophy that got them there in the first place. Keep show faith in the players that got them there. Yeah. They've handed out new contracts to pretty much every member of that first team squad. And just added a little bit of quality here and there. As you said, Patrick Roberts looks a superb player. I think he's going to be a big player.
Got competition for Krul in goal with Farman who's come in. I mean, he was 11 million euros valuation.
Great pedigree. A very Norwich signing, isn't he?
Underrated, undervalued, seeking to get value from people that you can bring on.
By all accounts, kind of lost his way a little bit in January last season. He's lost his place to they've got a new wonder kid in goal, Alexander Newell, who's kind of burst onto the scene.
Well, they've got good reputation for developing keepers at Schalke, haven't
but
they?
They've also given Schalke have also given Veerman a new contract, so he's going back there at the end of the season. So they obviously rate him highly.
Yeah, and he seems to be up for the challenge as well. Yeah. I mean, Donny, what do you think the chances are?
I think they've got a good chance of making a real statement in the Premier League this season. And you mentioned the amount of money that they've spent. You compare that to what Aston Villa and Sheffield United have spent. They've obviously are deciding to go on the premise that they needed to strengthen their squads, or certainly to improve their squads a little bit more. I think having faith in the players that got you into the top flight is an important thing. As you mentioned, the players who've got extended contracts as well, and obviously giving them a bit of a platform to excel as well. I mean, everyone's talking about Max Aarons being a 50-60 million pound defender.
He's got a chance to improve, hasn't he?
Exactly. So I think that's
a point you make really well there, because Norwich have got a lot of players with a lot of potential,
signed up on long-term contracts.
Exactly.
Well.
These guys,
Wendy,
they're only going to.
They've all got
their values are only going to go up, and they're tied down to long contracts. I think they'll be great. Especially those fullbacks.
They'll play without fear. They're young lads. They played without fear last season. I mean, if you'd have said at the start of last season that Max Aarons would have played the majority of that promotion campaign, people would have looked at you a bit. I mean, he's not. He doesn't fit that kind of that mould, doesn't he? He's not tall. But, he's lightning quick though. But I think that was a surprise, and I think they've got a real chance to go and prove themselves now.
And just the last thing on the spending, Villa, they had to have major surgery on the squad because their team was full of loanees last year. Really, you had Abraham and players like that. So they had to bring players in. They've gone to the extremes, like Fulham did. It didn't work for them, did it?
They spent 110 million.
So there's different ways of doing it. Norwich haven't got that money. That's the simple fact of it. They haven't.
The fact that Norwich have given these players extra, extended contracts shows that they've got the faith in the players that they've already got. Buendia, Pukki, all those Aarons.
I mean, Stuart Webber was interviewed recently by a colleague of ours, ex-colleague of ours, Jack Reeve, recently, and he was talking about, you need to be, if you're building this culture, of we're all in it together, you've got to reward those players, and they've absolutely gone out and done that.
And we saw that last season.
And I think that's a mistake Norwich made a few years ago when they went up and they got rid of, Malky Mackay and some other Roberts and stuff, and it makes you kind of second guess what their trust is in you. And I think it's looking positive. It's not going to be easy, it's the best league in the world, as
Absolutely.
I say. But
yeah, it's that's the caveat to it. It's a massive step up, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're going to find that out against Liverpool. That's the point. It doesn't take European champions, and it's your first game of the season. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a complete world apart for Norwich supporters and Ipswich supporters, because they're now facing a situation of being in the third tier English football for the first time in 62 years. And for 3 generations of supporters, completely different for them. How do you think they'll cope with being a big fish in a small pond?
I think really well. I mean, the bookies' favourites to go up. They've got good finances, great fans, a good manager, and some good signings, a good team, and hopefully they'll go back up to where they fans probably think they should be.
I think that's what they're going to have to deal with, isn't it? Being, as you said, a big fish, because everyone's going to look at Ipswich as a scalp. Sunderland had that last year. They kind of struggled with it a little bit. Everyone tipped them to go up, and they kind of limped into the playoffs. Lots of draws, and as you can see at the fixtures there, tough start, isn't it? Burton away, that's not an easy game. Sunderland,
that's our first.
That'll be a great game. I think it'll be close to a full house at Portman Road for that. Peterborough, we're expecting them to be up there, and AFC Wimbledon. That again, they could be quite tricky. They finished really strong last year. So yeah, tough start. So we'll find out a lot about Ipswich in that opening month, I think.
The squad has been hit by injuries throughout 3 seasons. There's debate about whether players will still be there when the kick-off starts as well. So already pressure on them for different reasons.
But I think they've got Paul Lambert in. He's done this before. Yeah. He's done it. He's done it with Norwich. He seems to be following that similar template. He's bringing in a mixture of loans, some experienced signings. He's got a lot of decent youth players coming through as well. He blooded a lot of those at the end of last season when they knew what their fate was, but he gave them a run out. Jack Lancaster, case in point. So I think they'll be fairly confident going into this season. If some of those young players come through and start playing really well, I mean, I saw some people talking about Flynn Downs. I know he had a bit of a bad outing. Not the best day at the office recently, but if they can get those players up for it, playing, they get a positive start, then I think,
key, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're a good start. They're looking for a good season.
If they could beat Sunderland at home, I think they'll give them such a lift, wouldn't it? I think it's a really good home game to start with, actually. And as I say, Burton's going to be a tough ask away. It's a really compact ground. But Ipswich have actually got a decent record there.
Yeah, I think
it's not. They can beat them.
I think Lambert will just have them going. I mean, they talked last year a lot about bringing the club back together, the positivity behind it. I mean, you've been out and seen both of those, the fans and stuff recently, haven't you? And I think there is real positivity about it. And Norwich saw that when they were in League One, that it actually got the club back together. I think Lambert can do that here as well.
We can say that. Going to the open day last Thursday, you could really sense the togetherness of the fans, and it's almost like they've gone, right, last season was a disaster. Yeah. It's happened now. Let's move on. We've got a manager who's done this before, as you said, at Norwich. And there's no reason why they can't do it again. I think the only thing I would say, defensively, they're struggling a bit with, because they're not going to have Chambers for those opening games. And Ciala's injured. Yeah, Bart might be going as well. But up front, they've got some serious firepower. They've got James Norwood, Caden Jackson as well. I had a chat with him at the open day, and this is what he told me about how he thinks he's going to do this season.
The disappointment from last season, not playing as much as I'd like, not scoring as much as I'd like, not doing as well as I'd like, has definitely given me, that added hunger to succeed this season. I've worked hard off season, coming pre-season in a relatively good shape. Obviously, you don't have the match fitness, but I felt sharp, I felt quick, I felt strong, and I think that's shown going into pre-season games and stuff. So I'm looking to take that into the season now, and hopefully, given the opportunity, hopefully I can do well for the team and score some goals.
And actually, the forward line, you've got James Norwood, Freddie Sears when he comes back. There's some really good players for this level, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the attacking players that we've got, taking nothing away from the defensive players, but there's a lot of good attacking players, even out injured, like I said. Obviously, Freddie, Guillon's coming back hopefully soon. There is a lot of players. You've seen Rowie, Robbo as well. Pre-season, they've looked sharp. I think it's got the potential to be a very exciting season for us as players and the fans as well.
Well, Ipswich are replaced in the Championship by Luton Town. As we mentioned earlier, they're on the duty on the opening night tomorrow, bridging a 14-year gap to when they were there at this level last. Memories of Chris Coyne, Keith Keane, Amit Berkovic and Steve Howard, to name a few. So how will they get on? Well, let's speak to Kevin Harper from the club's Supporters Trust, who's joining us via Skype. Kevin, thanks for joining us. First of all, how are you feeling regarding pre-season so far?
I'm fairly nonplussed about pre-season. Really, it's impossible to really gauge anything from results and things. The only thing I look at from pre-season are the signings that we make. Obviously, when you're going up a league, signings become even more important, particularly that gap between League One and the Championship. And I'm pleased that Graham Jones has brought in plenty of experience, Championship experience, even Premier League experience. So certainly no issues on that regard. We've had a few decent results pre-season. There was a win in Portugal. We got found out a little bit by Norwich on Saturday, but I don't think there's too much to worry about there. So yeah, everything's ticking along nicely, I think.
Of your new signings, which one do you think will stand out the most?
Callum McManaman was someone who sort of jumped out at me when we signed him. I remember, a few years ago he was pretty devastating for Wigan. Played a key part in their FA Cup success, didn't he? And listening to Jones's interviews and things, he seems pretty buoyant about what he's going to bring to the side. So I'm looking forward to seeing him this season. I think he should go really well.
Kevin, you spent a lot of money on a keeper from Croatia. What do you think? What are your hopes for him this season?
Yeah, hopes are high, really. Obviously, when you break your club record transfer fee, there's a little bit of pressure on that person, isn't there? But he's an international footballer. He's played at a decent level throughout his career, so it's not going to be anything massively new to him. Of course, goalkeepers in the Championship, I think we saw with the Leeds United last season, didn't we? They can be hit or miss, but I'm pretty confident that our scouting network will have done the required checks and everything, and I see no reason why he can't sort of shine. We've had a decent defensive record for the last couple of seasons, and fingers crossed he's the man to continue that behind a decent back four. Kevin,
you've done some good business in terms of incomings, but you've also lost Jack Stacey and James Justin to the Premier League. How much of a loss is that going to be?
Yeah, I don't think we can underplay the loss, really, to be honest. We've got to be realistic. They're huge losses. They were a massive part of our success last season. We play the diamond formation and, two mobile fullbacks, exactly what's needed in that. I'm convinced James Justin will go on and play at the very, very, very highest levels, England and beyond. Jack Stacey's not going to be too far behind. I think it's important to remember that Justin wasn't a starter last season. At the start of last season, Dan Potts, who's still here, was in the side for him until he got injured. So maybe that's less of a blow, but certainly Jack Stacey on the other side's a massive blow. But we've had a few sort of weeks to prepare without them. Hopefully, someone else will still come in between now and the end of the transfer window to fully replace him, and we can pick up where we left off. But yeah, I mean, when you lose players of that quality for the fees that we sold them for, you're going to miss them.
Well, hey, Kevin, so I've met the manager recently and some of the fans, and there's a real buzz at the club at the moment. From a fan perspective, what's your expectations this season?
I'm trying not to have too many expectations because I'm just so looking forward to seeing Championship football again. As Donovan mentioned right at the start, it's been a long time. If we stayed up this season, I'd be absolutely delighted with that. Anything beyond that would be sort of going into sort of fantasy world. But 12 months ago, if you'd said to me we were going to win League One in the fashion that we won it in, I probably wouldn't have believed you then either. So who knows what this side can achieve. There's a real confidence between them, as I'm sure you sort of noticed when you was down at the club. There's a real excitement around the fan base. Kenilworth Road's going to be sold out week in, week out, and it's not an easy place for visiting sides to go. So if we can have a nice season of consolidation, maybe rattle a few big cages along the way, and sort of finishing mid-table, I'd be absolutely delighted with that.
Kevin, absolutely fantastic to have you with us today, and look forward to Luton Town having a successful season back in the Championship after so long away from there. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
So Kevin feeling very positive about the season coming up and keeping his fingers crossed that Luton can stay up. How far do you think they can go?
Well, listening to Kevin there, it's interesting because I presume most fans probably just want Luton to stay up. But when I interviewed Graham Jones a few months ago when he was unveiled as the new manager, it wasn't just about staying up for him. He wants to get to the Premier League, whether it'll be this season, if they stay up, whether it'll be next season. That's his ultimate aim. And he's got experience as a coach. He hasn't managed at a club before, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I think fans will think he'll probably do really well at the club, but he's optimistic. They've got great fans behind the club. They've got some great signings. They've done 4 in this transfer window.
Stadium on the horizon as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the expectations are high. I mean, we haven't got to it yet, but I think that they'll finish quite well in the Championship. But optimism is high at the club, so they should do really well.
They should. Luton have got a lot going for them. They played some fantastic football last season. Scored a lot of goals. James Collins up front was superb. I think he'll be fine in the Championship. I really do. I just think the only thing I would say is I think Stacey and Justin are really big losses for them. They were kind of integral to how Luton played. Really attacking fullbacks. They've lost them, but they have brought in Martin Craney from Sheffield United.
They've got some really experienced players. I mean, Callum Manaman, who Kevin mentioned, 170 games in the Premier League and Championship over several. He's never really had a kind of full, consistent run of things. I think he could be a big signing for them.
Absolutely. And with Craney, looking at the Sheffield United fans, they really liked him. He was a kind of a bit part player at the start of the season, but he kind of came into the team towards the end of the season.
Bags a load of experience, 300 games roughly at Championship level.
I think he's a really good signing. And Galloway, you quite like him as well, don't you?
Yeah,
He's a good player.
I think he's always come from the Premier League. I'll talk about him a bit later on, but he's got that Premier League experience. He wants first team football and he's worked under Graham Jones before at Everton, so fingers crossed he'll get that start replacing James Justin.
Kazenga Lualua back, which I think is great. He's a real fan's favourite there. So I think he'll be good. These type of players they need at home, and I think that's his home.
You've got to remember as well that for some of our younger listeners, viewers, whatever, that 30 odd years ago, whenever they were tearing up, they were a really good fun side to watch. Steens and the Dibbles and all those kind of people they had playing for them, they were really fun to watch. And they've done it before. I know it's a different financial climate now, but as we said, the backers they got behind them, every chance they can do.
How exciting is that game tomorrow night? Borough under the lights, Kenilworth Road. First game of the season, awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've dealt with 2 promotions. A third was achieved by the MK Dons, bouncing back from League 2 at the first attempt. That was Paul Tisdale's first season in charge. So what do we reckon? A springboard for further success, or do you think it will just be consolidation this coming season?
Personally, I think consolidation. I think Tisdale's a really good manager. He's proven it at Exeter. He's done a really good job there.
With no money.
And got them promoted last season. Expectations were high last season. I think everyone thought they were going to be up there. But with the MK Dons, they have lost Chuck Sanike, which I think that's a big loss.
17 goals last season.
Yeah, lots of goals. Very creative player. He's gone, but they've kept Agard, which is good. I don't think there'll be any trouble. I really don't. I just think mid-table. And that club has got a lot of potential. You look at the stadium, it's magnificent. When I've been to film there, it's just an amazing stadium. You think, if that could get going, what a club that could be.
Well, it's a shame the Dons are forced to miss out the opening day with their game at Bury suspended. But what about the season ahead?
We're raring to go. We've got momentum from last year. We recruited, pretty strongly over the course of the summer. Added to the squad in some key positions. Everybody was really looking forward to Saturday, but we'll have to wait for another 7 days. It doesn't mean we kick off the season here at Stadium MK, and that naturally will give everybody a boost as to when that fixture takes place and we can run out at Stadium MK. So a season we are tremendously looking forward to, hoping to put some more smiles on faces to continue, as I said, the momentum that kicked off from the end of last season as well.
Well, the Dons are reunited with AFC Wimbledon. It'll be interesting to see how they will be welcomed in the EFL Cup, with the league insisting Wimbledon treat them respectfully. And closer to home, they're back with Peterborough, which leads us nicely to Posh. London Road now under the guise of the Western Homes Stadium nowadays. Darren Ferguson with his third spell under Darragh McAntony. And the chairman backing Ferguson again with some of the transfers, as we can see now. Some of the names coming back, Mo Issa, George Boyd, Mark Beevers and the goalkeeper Christy Pym. Yep. Are they hot shots for promotion?
I think they've had, we were discussing this before we started recording this, but I think Peterborough have had the best transfer window.
Yeah, I do.
You know, and you talked about Western Home Stadium. Frankie Kent, who used to play for Colchester, the former name of Colchester Stadium, tenuous link of the Day Award. But Frankie Kent signing there as well. I think they've made some absolutely brilliant signings, and I think, and we'll talk about Mo Issa in a bit. But you know, again, gambled a bit on youth. They've got Blake Tracy in from Kings Lynn. Young lad who's kind of not tested at this level really, but I think they've made a really exciting set of signings, and I think they'll go one better than they did, and definitely finish in the playoffs.
Well, looking at those signings, do you think this is a club that wants to get promoted by who they've got coming in?
I was going to say that I think Darragh McAntony, he's always given great backing to his managers, absolutely. And the ambition he's been quite open is to get to the Championship, and there's kind of no excuse when you're signing players for. Issa is over £1 million. Lots of clubs were in for him.
Well, he said two Championship clubs were after him.
So I think the pressure is kind of on Ferguson this year to deliver.
He's
but
done it before.
McAntony obviously trusts him as well.
Yeah, I think he's done it before. He's been there. Absolutely,
yeah.
He's taken them up before. I think he can do it again. I think it's a really exciting squad they're building there.
I think the strategy to who they're buying as well. I mean, Beevers, who's on that graphic that you can see there. Very experienced player, and he's already been made captain. So he's come in. They've obviously looked at his leadership qualities and thought he's going to shore up that back line, because that's always been the problem with Posh, isn't it? They've always been great fun to watch going forwards, but defensively always a bit suspect.
I really like Frankie Kent. I think it was about 2 points a game he earned. Colchester last season. He's really good at the back. He can pop up with a goal from set pieces as well. He's 23. He's got plenty of room to develop. I think that's a brilliant signing.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Lot of you can see the strategy as well. Young players on the whole, apart from Beevers, but you do need some experienced heads as well.
And they've got the experience from people like George Boyd who come in and can nurture.
That is a good sign.
He played really well. I mean, I was a bit concerned about think never go back type thing, but he played really well against Grimsby.
He'll take the drops back to his old club to get. He's been open. He wants to get them promoted back.
He's a class act as well. He's such a good player to watch.
Old head, experienced head. And a locker room leader.
That's what I mean. I bet Posh fans can't believe they've got Boyd back. It's brilliant. If he plays,
and he's been really consistent. He's been really consistent. When he went to Harlan-Burnley, I think he hasn't scored a shed load of goals, but he's been pretty consistent in his goal scoring form. He's been pretty consistent in when he has played. I think this is a great signing for this.
I do, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Posh manager Darren Ferguson is expecting a lot from both Boyd and Beevers. When you talk about experience, it's always handy to have someone who knows the place like George.
I think what he brings to the rest of the squad is, yes, he knows the club, he knows how I work, he knows how I want to play, but the most important thing is he can pass on his experience and also the way he goes about his work. The players can see that firsthand, the younger ones, and he sets a great example, but every day he's at it in training, and I think that's the most pleasing thing about what he's going to bring. Added to that, he's undoubted quality that he's going to bring into the team.
Yeah. And what sort of a captain is Mark Beevers? Is he a shouter? Is he a baller? Is he a calm person? What sort of a person?
He's quite calm, Mark. He's quite calm. He's got the respect of the players. He's got he's got that authority about him without having to scream and shout. He's going to be a very good captain for us. He's a very good player. And when we brought him in, obviously not working with him at first hand, I knew what things he could do. But when you work with him, he's a better player than what I actually realised. And that's not a criticism. That's a bit of praise from me for him, because he's been excellent since he's come through the door.
Time to concentrate on the rest of our EFL clubs. Southend, the last one in League One, only just surviving last season, the last day. Kevin Bond still there. He's assisted by Gary Waddock. What can we expect from them?
I think they're just looking for some stability this season. I mean, I think he's the third coach in 18 months.
That was cutting it seriously fine.
It was skin in the teeth stuff.
They were down for a lot of that game against Sunderland. Pulled out the back, brilliant.
To do it as they did it was fantastic. I think it almost looks like they're doing, if you borrow from American sports, they're doing a bit of a rebuild. I think this season you've got two clubs that are starting on minus 12 points. Luton, I know how they feel, but they're starting Bury and Bolton. They're both starting on minus points. I think you're pretty safe from those last two relegation spots. So I think they're just looking to do a bit of a rebuild, kind of shaping things up. Ghattaura they brought in as another coach. Be interesting to see how that goes. But I think they're just looking for some stability this season.
One signing I do like is Mark Milligan. He's the Australian captain. They brought him in on a free transfer. He's also going to be a coach there when he retires from playing. But similar to Posh, really, with Beavers, lots of leadership qualities there. Obviously, I mean, you don't captain a country like Australia if you're not any good and you don't have anything about you.
They're not exactly reluctant of criticising you if you do badly,
so,
are you? So I think it'd be used to.
I was going to say, if they're struggling, I think Milligan will let them know about it. Shall we say?
What about Essex rivals Colchester? Some big departures from the club. We've already mentioned Frankie Kent going to Peterborough, Sammy Smodics, Brennan Dickinson. But is it going to be consolidation, or do you think they can take that next step?
I think they can. Dean Gherkin coming back, I think that's a great move for the club. I think the fans will love the fact that he's back. He's been open, he says he wants promotion, and with that attitude, I think that they have got a good chance. I predicted them, we'll talk about that later again, to go up or to get in the playoffs and potentially go up, and I think they'll do really well. They finished 8th last season, so they've got a good chance of
they were on the bubble for a lot of
that
season.
Very unlucky.
Tailed off towards the end, but they were great.
And Smodics is a big loss though, isn't he? He's a very creative player, very lots of quality about him. But they've brought in Giovanni Brown. I like that signing. I'm amazed he's gone to another League Two club. No disrespect to Colchester. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah,
bit of business for them. But
he played really well in a struggling Cambridge side.
Exactly. I wouldn't have thought Cambridge are that amused by it.
No,
he's gone to another League Two club.
Yeah. 7 goals, 10 assists. So I think he's a really good signing for them.
Yeah.
And Paris Karen Hole will be interesting as well. See if on his day he's pretty.
He's a maverick, isn't he?
I think I think it's right what Andy and Rav say about losing those leaders. But I think if you bring in someone like Gherkin, you've got a bit of a mix. I think McGreal's canny enough that
well-run club,
push on.
Yeah.
Northampton. Big overhaul of players that Keith Curl said, but he did say actually middle of last season that he needed to change things, but it could be kill or cure, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's a good job we didn't do another graphic like the Peterborough one, because we'd have had to keep putting it up. So many signings. I think it's 12.
12. So. 12 that's exactly the academy signings.
And that could change, couldn't it?
3 or 4 youngsters as well, I think.
They needed overhaul. I think they were kind of dicing with danger a little bit last season, weren't they? Bit of a flat seation last season for them.
Again, at one stage though, towards the kind of last third of the season, it looked like they had a outside punt at kind of playoffs, and then they gone tail away.
That's what I was going to say. I think Keith Curl did a really good job actually when he went in there.
I think from a fan's point of view, losing O'Toole will be a big miss. David Buchanan, again, you've got those kind of leadership roles that we always kind of talk about, but be interesting to see how they go. And but I think Keith Curl will take them on this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cambridge, their problems were scoring goals last season, and they're going to start the season with one fit striker, I think, unless they get one of the trialists on board.
All the business is a bit last minute with them, isn't it? It doesn't seem. Other clubs have sort of set the stall out early doors and
but then
and
there
got
was a lot of
players
kind of stuff in the boardroom that they were sorting through. They're still talking about this new stadium and financial things. So you can kind of see how that might play into it. But it'll be an interesting watch this season.
And interesting times at Stevenage. New stand being built at the moment. The chairman, Phil Wallace, launching this share issue as well to generate some cash for the squad. And they've already dedicated some of that money for the coaching staff and a couple of players as well. Doesn't always guarantee success, but manager Dino Marmario is in no doubt about what impact that can have.
I think the chairman initiative is a very, very intelligent idea. I think to try to raise some funds to give us something, a little help in hand, if that makes an instant transfer market, at least to get that better quality players. They're going to deliver us exciting, entertaining football, winning football as well. And then that way it's a win-win situation for us. So we'll wait and see with that. But we've got to keep moving forward. And like I said, I think the biggest thing about this football club is ambitious football club, and we keep going forward.
Well, we've invited you, the fans, to give us your thoughts about the coming season for your club, the hopes, fears and expectations. Thanks for those who've answered our call through social media. Here's a flavour of what you've been saying.
we're going to be good. I truly believe that we're going to be all right this year. There's plenty of skill within the team. They talk about experience. They're still footballers, goals still in the same place. I'm confident we're going to be okay this year. On the ball, City.
Come on, you yellows. I'm Di Cunningham from the Proud Canaries fan group, and these are my predictions for the season. Most promising new signing. That for me is Joseph Dermage. He's menacing and clinical in the box. Player for who the Prem holds the least fear, that's obviously Emi Buendia, who will find his spiritual home on the pitches of the world's greatest league. Weaknesses. We will get tonked, and possibly in the first fixture of the season. But hey, we'll win plenty too. Most surprising player. Last year that mantle fell to Steepy, who surprised us all with his flair. This year maybe the shock's going to come from Todd Cantwell, if he's selected. He's looked sharp, fast and in control in pre-season. Where will we finish in the table? I think Norwich City will end the season in 14th.
Hello there, my name is Colin, I'm a Luton Town fan. And well, as a Luton fan, a football season is always a roller coaster ride. And if you'd asked me at this point last year, when we got promoted from League 2, I'd have said I'd just been happy to stay in League 1. But then we went and won League 1 and now in the Championship. So I'm guessing it's back to back promotions then. Premier League, we're coming for you. Come on, you Hatters.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Bloom, Ipswich Town fan, podcaster, YouTuber, etc. How will Ipswich do this season? Well, it's a step into the unknown. First season in the third tier for decades. With the quality in the squad, Ipswich should easily be able to finish in the top 8. And if Paul Lambert can get the club all pulling in the right direction, strong pattern of play, there's no reason why they can't make the top 4.
So Peterborough United, I think this year will get automatic promotion from League 1. I'm not going to say they're going to win it outright because there's 2 or 3 other strong teams in that league. We've recruited well over the summer. We've got a good mixture of experienced players at that level as well as some younger lads that look quite handy. We've got Fergie back at the helm, George Boyd back in the building. So yeah, feeling pretty optimistic for the season ahead.
So, as usual, lots of optimism around for the upcoming campaign, but there's still a few things happening this season which will be new for our fans. Well, Rav has picked out just a few of those changes.
Well, yes, thanks, Donny. So lots of changes this year. Most notably for Norwich City, who will have to get to grips with VAR for the first time. It's been introduced to the Premier League next season, so expect a few early teething problems in the opening games. And who knows, the first contentious decision might even come in Norwich's game at Liverpool in their opening game of the season. Well, EFL fans, don't worry, you're not affected though. There's no plans to introduce it just yet outside of the Premier League. But watch this space, who knows. We've also got a new manager to get to know, as we touched upon earlier. Graham Jones is a new man in charge at Luton as they prepare for their return to the Championship. Whether he'll have the same success at Kenilworth Road as his namesake Nathan, though, well, only time will tell. It's all change at Stevenage too. They've got a new crest this season. Gone is the old badge, which has been used since 1996, and in its place is this new swanky design. As you can see, the centrepiece is the county's famous Hertfordshire heart, while there's also 6 stripes to represent the town's 6 hills Roman burial mounds. Well, no stripes at Colchester this season, though. They've ditched their traditional blue and white stripes in favour of this snazzy number. It's a nod to the famous Colchester team that beat Leeds United in the 1971 FA Cup. And finally, there could be a new cult hero in town at Norwich City. It turns out their new striker, Joseph Dermage, is also a pretty handy rapper. He's just released a new single called No Tomorrow. Just have a listen to this.
Never gonna leave you alone. Love it when we speak on the phone. Please stay, meet me in my zone.
Pretty catchy, and there's every chance we'll hear that played at Carrow Road next season if he scores a few goals. It's quite catchy, isn't it? What do you guys think?
What a song. I think I'll stick with Half Man, Half Biscuit, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
Not really my cup of tea.
No.
Well, I'm sure supporters have their own thoughts on which players will make their biggest difference to their teams this season. Still a week to go before the transfer window closes, though, but we've already identified a few. Andy, who's yours?
My pick is James Norwood at Ipswich. I think that's a really impressive signing for them. 32 goals last season for Tranmere. To get him on a free transfer as well, I just think he's going to become a bit of a talisman for them. Kind of like what Grant Holt was at Norwich. I think he could be that man for Ipswich.
Yeah, big club for him, isn't it? And a really good chance to kind of add to his goal tally.
Like him, I've watched him play a bit, and he's good. He's harries the defenders all day long, and he
Blues
can finish.
fans really like him.
No, it'd be great.
Rob?
Well, Mo Issa, I've gone with for Peterborough. I think I just think he looks absolutely fantastic. We've got for those watching at home, if not, we'll put a link up. But there's a fantastic goal he scored against Grimsby. I mean, it's an absolute rasper. I think he looks really good. I think Peterborough have got a really good reputation of finding and developing these strikers. I mean, Aaron McLean, Mikhail Smith, Connor Washington, Britt Sombolonga. I mean, strikers, they seem to have just the absolute business on them. So I'm looking forward to seeing him go well.
Rav?
I've gone for Brendan Galloway at Luton. He was just signed a few weeks ago by the club. He's their fourth signing, I think, this transfer window. He's 23, he's quick. He was on a free transfer, which was great for the club, obviously, returning back to the Championship. He moved from Everton, so he's got that Premier League experience. And, of course, we know that he's worked under Graham Jones before, when Graham Jones was at Everton with Roberto Martinez. So he's got that experience. He's had injuries in the last season, so he hasn't played as much. He's been open that he wants to have first-team football, and obviously with James Justin going to Leicester, there is that vacancy at the back for him to play. And, hopefully, Graham Jones has got the faith in him to start, and, he wants to get them promoted. He wants to get them, playing well, and hopefully if he stays fit, I think he'll be I think he'll do really well this season.
How about you, Donny?
Yeah, my choice is in League Two at Northampton. Reece Hall-Johnson, who Norwich City fans know very well. He was a member of the FA Youth Cup winning squad, actually, playing alongside the likes of the Murphy twins, Carlton Morris, Cameron McGeehan as well. Seems to have lost his way a little bit. I mean, he was released by Grimsby last season, but maybe Keith Curle will try and get the best out of him at Northampton's ground. And, we'll see if he makes an impact with the rest of the other players as well. Now, it's time to put our reputations on the line. Prediction time. Who's going to finish where? Rob?
I've read a physics book recently, and Niels Bohr, physicist, said, predicting things is hard, especially about the future, but we've given it a go here.
I was going to say, pick up 2 or 3 out.
So I think Norwich will be safe. I think just the surprise factor will do them okay. Like Kevin, I think Luton will be all right. I think the both Posh and Ipswich will be in the playoffs. I think, blatantly, if they don't make the playoffs, I think there'll be a disappointment for both of them. I think the strugglers this season will be Cambridge. I still have them safe, but I think they're going to have possibly the kind of most difficult season of all of our clubs.
I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think Norwich will stay up as well. I think it's going to be quite tight, though. I do think it's going to be a close run thing. Just because, as we touched upon earlier in the show, a lot of these clubs have spent so much money, they've got a lot of quality, and it is going to be a tough ask to stay up, there's no doubt about it. But I do think Norwich have got some fantastic players that are going to thrive at this level. Luton, I think, will be safe as well. I don't expect them to be in the top half. I think losing, I keep saying it, but Justin and Stacey, I think that's a big loss for them. But I do think they'll be fine, passionate crowd there. Ipswich, this is controversial, but I'm tipping them to just miss out on the playoffs. I think they'll finish 8th is what I've gone for. And that's purely because defensively, I do think they're going to be a bit suspect. That might change when Chambers comes back, to be fair.
I do think if they don't get to the playoffs, I think the fans and the club will be disappointed.
Yeah,
we touched on it earlier, but it's a really hard division to get out.
It is, and they are going to be
a really good start.
They're going to be a big scalp in that league as well. Peterborough, I do fancy to be in the playoffs. I think they'll finish about 4th. MK Dons mid-table. Going into League 2, Colchester I'm tipping to be in the playoffs. Stevenage as well. I think they've both got decent squads. Northampton mid-table. Cambridge
just missing out, but Colchester I agree, I think.
Yeah. Cambridge towards that bottom half.
Well, mine are pretty similar. Probably the one that's going to divide opinion is could be the most optimistic. I don't know. I've got Luton to finish top half, 6th in fact. I think they've had back-to-back promotions. You know, they've got great fans. You know, we heard from Kevin earlier. They've got a lot of optimism. Yes, he wants them to stay up, but I think they'll do really well. They've had some good signings. They've got a manager who wants to make his mark in the Championship. So I think, you know, with you know, Mick Harper still in the backroom staff, I think they will do really well. They've got all that optimism, all that, you know, the buzz of, you know, being promoted behind them. I think they could do really well. Norwich have got to stay up 15th. I think they can do really well with.
More optimistic.
Well, it is also optimistic too. But you know, you know, look at their season last season. If they bring that momentum, you know, to the Premier League, they've done it before. They've been there. They know what to expect. Yes, it's a tough expectation, but I think they could do really well. Colchester have got to get into the playoffs, like Peterborough as well, and I think Cambridge could struggle. But let's see how they start.
I think we're all in the same boat regarding Cambridge. I think Cambridge, though, will be slightly more comfortable than they were last season as well. Northampton, bit of an overhaul. I think it might be too much of an overhaul to see them get into the playoffs, so I've got them for sort of mid-table. Colchester and Stevenage will be in and around the playoffs as well. Again, with Southend, new manager for a full season, hopefully, will get them sort of further up the table, so to speak. MK Dons, mid-table. Ipswich and Peterborough, should I say. Playoffs, whether they go up via the playoffs doesn't really matter. Luton, I reckon, in the bottom half, but I think that Norwich will be okay. I think I predicted the same as yourself.
We've all just put the mockers on Norwich then. And,
Please fans, please don't hold us to this. We are not responsible.
Absolutely. Yes, as I say, we'll find out over the next 9 months whether any of those predictions are close or way off the mark. Well, that's all for this edition of About Anglia. Thanks to Rob, Andy and Rab for their input, and for you for listening and watching. And it'd be great to get your feedback through any of our social media streams, either on this or on what you'd like to see on future editions of About Anglia. For now, from myself and the rest of the team involved, goodbye.